What's going on, guys? It is Logan and Noah back with Courtside TV, and we're here with another episode of NBA Talks. This past weekend was the All-Star Weekend, and today what we're going to do is we're going to recap All-Star Weekend and just kind of talk about some stuff going into the back half of the year, and also talk about how we think the All-Star Weekend could be improved. So, All-Star Weekend started Friday night, and you can go watch our preview to All-Star Weekend last week's episode, just talking about who we thought was going to win everything, stuff like that. So looking back at All-Star Weekend, I believe I had De'Aaron Fox in the skills competition. Let's start Friday night was Rising Stars, right?
Yeah.
Friday night. Okay, so Rising Stars Friday night. We both had Team USA winning. Team USA won. I actually picked Kyle Kuzma for MVP, and he did win MVP. Trae Young had a really, really good game too, so he was close out of MVP, but I didn't watch a ton of the Rising Stars game, but I did see a few of the highlights. So anything you want to point out?
Yeah. First of all, this video is sponsored by Bang once again. All of our videos will be sponsored by Bang until they sponsor us. So the guys that I like, obviously John Collins, Trae Young, being a Hawks fan, say that every week, but some incredible dunks from not both of them. John Collins, shots from Trae Young. I saw basically, it was an all-star game for the young guys, and they all play hard because they've got something to prove. They got a lot of young energy. So there's a lot of dunks, a lot of crazy threes, but it's about all you can get out of that game.
Yeah. John Collins did have a pretty sick 360 off of a lob from Trae Young. But Rising Stars game, like Noah said, it's just an all-star game for the young guys. A lot of fun to see the potential in the league right now. Then moving on to Saturday night, the first event was the Skills Challenge, which was I thought it was a pretty good one. Honestly, we'll talk about the three-point and dunk later, but the Skills Challenge I felt like really started the night off really strong, and I thought it was a really good challenge. I had De'Aaron Fox. He got out due to a Trae Young 30-footer, so that was cool, but Noah, how do you feel about the Skills Challenge?
Are we going to go ahead and talk about what we think we can fix?
We'll do that after.
Okay.
So
I thought, like you said, it was really exciting. Honestly, for me, it was the most exciting event of the night. Without it really being, it was, just kind of, dribble the ball a little bit, lay it up, shoot a three, whatever. But it was really exciting when it was coming down to the finish because, it was cool. I was like, yeah, Trae Young went off a 30-footer, and then he went off, another crazy shot against Doncic, and then it happened to him from a half-court shot from Tatum, which broke my heart. But, yeah. It was really exciting, I thought.
Yeah. I don't think people were like... I don't know a lot of people that picked Jason Tatum to win it, but, I think in that challenge, it can be a lot of different things, because obviously we'll talk about how we think it can change with, missing the three passes, stuff like that. But, like Noah said, the half-court shot, stuff like that. That challenge can go a lot of different ways due to a lot of different things. Moving on, three-point contest, I had Damian Lillard. I think Noah had...
Danny Green.
Danny Green. I think three-point contest was a lot of fun. Joe Harris ended up winning, obviously, and it was because of his consistency. I believe Steph had the highest score of any round. I think he had 27, but Joe Harris had 25, 26 every round. So the consistency, Joe Harris went in that. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, Joe Harris shot the ball really well. I think it was... he's second in the league, I think, in three-point percentage. And all of his threes really are not off the dribble, off catch and shoot. So I think he just kind of showed everybody his hard work and what he's been doing all season. It was him, Steph, obviously, and Buddy Hield in the last round. Yeah. And Buddy Hield did really well in that first round, but second round he just didn't really do so hot. But, that's about all you can say for 3 points, this guy's shot.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that Joe Harris was actually... Most people might not know this, but he was on the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron a couple years ago. And, I just want to put that out there.
That's where he got his shooting
from.
He's
starting to enter his prime, I think, and shoot the ball really, really well. So it'd be nice if LeBron had that instead of an older Kyle Korver. But either way, moving on to the dunk contest. Dunk contest is probably where people had the biggest issue with. It was all right. I have seen worse dunk contests in my life, but have seen a lot better as well. What do you think about the dunk contest? I had Miles Bridges winning, and I will say this. I had Miles Bridges winning. If Miles Bridges would have completed his first dunk, which he actually had the ball over the top of the rim, and it came back out. if he would have completed his first dunk, which was off the backboard between the legs, he would have had a 50 in both of his dunks in the first round would have been 50s, because his second dunk was off the backboard 360 windmill, and that was a 50. And then if he would have completed his first dunk, it would have been a 50. I think he would have gone to the final, or he would have gone to the finals and had a better chance to win. But my big takeaway from it, if all the guys completed their dunks, it would have been really fun to watch, and it would have been a very exciting ending to it, because the ending was kind of but what do you think?
We can talk a little bit. I've got a lot to say about how we can fix this, and got a lot of good ideas just based off this dunk contest. But I feel like, one, it's harder for big men because it doesn't matter how high they get; it's not going to look as high because of their extra height. And it's also, it makes it hard. Every year it gets harder, I think, because people compare each dunk contest to previous dunk contest. So the first one, it was like people were doing basic dunks, and like, oh, windmill was a 50. And like if you went up there and just did a windmill, you'd get like a 40 something, and which I think is still very generous. But I think it gets harder every year, and because people still expect to be like amazed, but it's almost like they're running out of things to do. So a lot of the dunks are now just who can get the fans into it the most, who can create the best show, rather than doing the most athletic dunk, which is just how it's evolving.
Yeah, and I think we're going to kind of transition this into, after we talk about the All-Star Game briefly, we're going to transition into what we think can change. But another comment that I have to make about the dunk contest is I feel like it's not guys going for the craziest dunks every single round. It's almost like they play it strategically, because as y'all saw, Diallo, I believe his first dunk in the finals, he didn't need a very high score, or it was his second dunk. He didn't need a very high score to make it to the finals, so he did like a 360, like a windmill or 360.
Yeah.
He did a basic dunk just to get to the finals, and that makes it boring for the fans, because we don't want to, like, I understand they want to win the contest, and that's the goal, but for the fans, you want to see the craziest dunks, so that, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Because like the dunk contest is for like 3-point shootout. It's like, you're just trying to see who can hit the most threes. It's not like, wow, I'm gonna get, like, if somebody does. But the dunk contest, that is for the fans.
Yeah.
So you gotta bring your A game.
Yeah. So we'll just hit the All-Star Game briefly, and then we'll start talking about how we think All-Star Weekend could get better. I watched most of the second half of the All-Star Game. Obviously, LeBron's team was down 18 points and came back and ended up winning by like 14 or so. All-Star Game, I always enjoy the All-Star Game just because I really appreciate how good these guys are. I mean, these are the best players in the world. And I understand people complain, oh, no defense, no this, no that. But this is like one of the, obviously we see their skills night in and night out, but this is one of those times where we just get to see them like do the craziest things, dunks, lobs, dribble moves, stuff that they wouldn't normally do in a game. And if you really appreciate, like, because me and Noah played basketball quite a bit. Noah played in high school. And when you play basketball, even against competitive dudes like at our college, we can really appreciate how good these guys are and the best of the NBA and stuff. So I just like watching the All-Star Game because I just enjoy watching basketball in general. So it's a lot of fun to see all the best players in the world on the court together, and seeing how they interact and stuff is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the whole defense complaint. If you want to watch defense, go watch the playoffs. No All-Star Game in any sport besides the MLB, I think, really means anything, because I think the MLB, it's like who gets home field in the World Series. Right. But I mean, other than that, it doesn't really matter. So you're watching that game to see who hits like the long threes, who gets those incredible dunks, because that's really what makes those games exciting day in and day out. It's you're not like, you're not getting up off your seat during a regular game saying, wow, that was incredible defense. Like, you're saying, wow, that was an incredible three, that was an incredible dunk, a dribble move, pass, like whatever. And that's just what the All-Star Game is, just full of those. So I think, who cares about the defense at this point? As long as people, like, they're putting their hands up and they're out there, I think that's enough, honestly.
Yeah. And also, every single one of those guys is naturally competitive. That's part of the reason they made it to the NBA, is because of their competitive nature. And especially when LeBron's team came back and it got close, you started to see guys play a little tighter defense. And I think I've seen that trend happen in the last several All-Star games that I've watched. If the game's close and it's towards the end, those guys actually, they'll tighten up a little bit. And they're not going to play playoff defense, but they're having fun, but they also want to win too. So it gets competitive a little bit. But yeah, that's...
They want to win, but their main goal is NBA championships, so they're not going to play as hard, but they'll still play a little bit. It's fun.
So we're going to kind of take it back now and we're going to talk about ways we think the All-Star Weekend as a whole can be improved. And I know Noah's got a lot to say about this, so I'll go ahead and let him start.
Actually, I want to start with the Rising Stars.
Okay.
I mean, there's not really much to fix about it.
Right.
I think it is a really good format right now, like the Team World versus Team USA. The only thing is, I think there was, when we were looking at the rosters originally, there was somebody on Team World where we're like, I've never even heard of them.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember who it was even, but like there's a couple guys that could have been on Team USA that weren't, like just Kevin Herter off the top of my head. I feel like he's played good enough that he should have made that game. But since he was not of the best on Team USA, he didn't. So maybe they could work it out. So it's I like it though, but it's like there's a couple guys, especially because Hawks fan, want Kevin Herter in that game. But other than that, it's like we talked about, the young guys, they play hard, so there's not really much you can do to fix it because it's going to be that pickup all-star format.
Yeah.
But they still play hard because they're young.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember how long it's been World versus USA.
It's been a couple of years. Yeah.
But before it was the freshman versus sophomore, so rookie and sophomore. And that was fun and all. I do like USA and World, though, because there's a lot of guys, as we see, like Luka Doncic in the league, that are, like, becoming stars. And, there's always been a good amount of foreign players, such as, like, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Dirk, guys like that are in the league that are stars. So I do like that format, too, especially because a guy like Ben Simmons, who, if you're like younger and watching the NBA, you might not know he's from Australia, but he is, and he's like a generational talent. So it's cool to see them go up against each other like that. But yeah, Rising Stars. I mean, it's Rising Stars. It's kind of like the All-Star Game. I don't really think there's much you can change about the All-Star Game. It's just an All-Star Game for the younger guys. So we'll kind of move on to
so the skills challenge, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I picked Trae Young. Really was rooting for him. So. The first time when I don't remember if it was against De'Aaron. I think it was against Luka Doncic.
Okay.
He didn't make any of his 3 passes. Right. And after 3, you just got to go.
Yeah.
And then he hit the shot, whatever, he won. People were like, oh, he didn't make 3 passes. But I was like, he didn't have to make 3 passes, whatever. Like, it was fine for me because that's who I wanted to win. And then, like, against De'Aaron Fox, he won off a 30-footer. Whereas De'Aaron Fox, like,
Fox had the whole court ahead of him.
Yeah. And then he just didn't make the shot. So it's like, is it his skills or is it his shot making?
Yeah.
And then, Trae Young starts against Luka Doncic, starts going a little faster, and then Jason Tatum, he had like the length of the court on him. Mm-hmm. And then he goes down, takes the shot, and Jason Tatum just threw it up earlier and it just went in. And I was like, man, he should have had to shoot it from the spot.
It's like playing gotcha in the driveway.
Yeah. And so I was like, but Trae Young did that. So I think it was fine for me, obviously, when Trae Young was doing it, but I'd like to see it said that you have to make the pass in. You sit there until you make the pass. Because I think they were talking about Kuzma at one point, was just literally just firing off 3 passes.
Yeah.
Because after 3, it was just how fast he could do it. So he was trying to not mess up anything. And then have to shoot from the spot.
Right.
I think that's 2 things that could have been fixed. Or they could just trash the whole thing. Because it's honestly not even how skilled you are at this point.
Right. Yeah.
You're dribbling through some cones, but it's not really skills.
Yeah.
The pass, maybe. But other than that, I think they could just change everything, maybe replace it with something. But
what about if they... Okay, so obviously they're trying to race each other to make the final shot, right? Mm-hmm. What if they had the guys... I mean, I would say alternate shots, but they're such good...
Right.
They're top players in the NBA, so, the first guy's going to hit it. So I guess that wouldn't be a great solution, but is that... You got anything else to say about that one?
I was going to say... about that one?
About Rising... Or Skills Challenge. Yeah.
I was just going to say you could, because it's kind of getting to that point where, the old format I think was better.
Yeah.
But I think if they just kind of replaced it with, honestly, a game of horse or a game of gotcha, I think that would be fun to watch. But, we'll see what they can do.
So I think I like the old format better where there was, timed. But also, this is something, shout out to Jesser. He did a little skills challenge with the 2 Hype crew in the backyard. And they had, at the different stations with passing or making shots that Jesser did, y'all can go watch that video, there was 3 balls, and if you missed all 3, you had 3 seconds added to your time at the end, which I think would be a good incentive for guys to make the pass. Yeah. Because you see guys, if they miss the first one and miss the second one, they just grab the 3rd ball and don't care. They just chuck it and go. But if you say, okay, if you go back to the old format and you make it timed, and you say... If you miss all 3 passes, then you get 3 seconds added to your time, then it'd be worth it for guys to make the pass. Or I mean, you could say, okay, you have to make the pass and just give them a whole rack of balls in case they need more than 3. You could do that,
Yeah.
or potentially add seconds to the time. But.
Yeah, either or. I mean, I think it was exciting to watch, but I think there's a lot they could do to fix it. But we can move on to the 3-point shootout.
Yeah.
I think honestly, there's not really much they can do at this point. The only thing that I would say is the whole Moneyball rack thing. I'm not, I mean, that's an exciting point because it's kind of helps you out there at the end. But I feel like it almost kind of takes away from the whole being a good 3-point shooter all the way around. It's just oh, I'm good from that spot. Let's get double points the entire time. I like the Moneyball, the end of each rack is good. But the whole Moneyball rack thing, I think that's a little over the top, just trying to feed egos and feed increased scores.
Yeah, and obviously they put it to make it more exciting if, let's say, a guy's down by 10 points and he needs to hit all 5 of the money balls on his Moneyball rack to make it more exciting. But either way, I mean, it doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah.
It's 3-point contest. It's can you shoot or can you not shoot? That's pretty much it. And like we talked about in the preview episode, it's a lot different than these guys are used to. Grabbing a ball off a rack is not something they do. So it's exciting, and being shooters, it's really fun. Like I said earlier, if you really appreciate the skill these guys have and how consistent they are at knocking down NBA threes, and I say NBA threes because NBA threes are a lot longer than I think people know. Because I mean, most of us know a high school 3 is right there on the line, on the circle or whatever. But NBA threes are long, and for these guys to be so consistent at it, it's really incredible. Mm-hmm. So. That's pretty much 3-point contest. Not a whole lot, but we'll move on to the dunk contest now.
You can start with the dunk contest. I'm gonna have a lot to say.
All right, dunk contest. It's so hard because there's been several dunk contests in my lifetime that I really enjoyed, and there's been several that just were eh. And I don't know. It's such I know there's a lot. So I'll just address judging. Noah already mentioned it, and the announcers talked about it all night. Big guys have a disadvantage in the dunk contest. And that's just how it is, because it doesn't look as good. If you see a 5'11 dude jump 40 inches, it looks ridiculous. But if you see a 6'10 dude jump 40 inches, I mean, that's ridiculous too, but it doesn't look as good because their feet are hitting the ground right after they dunk it pretty much. And that's why, I mean... And it's hard to say that because Dwight Howard had a couple years of crazy dunk contests.
And Blake Griffin.
And stuff. But obviously, Blake Griffin jumped over Carr. I think Dwight Howard with the whole Superman thing was just awesome. And, people enjoyed that and stuff. Judging is kind of and I think, I don't know. Noah's talked about how it's gotten harder, as we've progressed because guys are doing crazier dunks and stuff. I don't know. It's so tricky because people want the judges to take off for these guys missing the dunks, and I understand that. But at the same time, these dunks are ridiculously hard. Most of them are ridiculously hard, and I think if you're able to complete it, or if you're able to do it in 3 attempts, then I don't know, maybe a point off, but I don't know. It's tricky.
So. I'm just going to start with the judging. So, John Collins' first dunk, he jumped up, and, I'm not going to say John Collins, I think, could have done a lot better. I think he did some incredible dunks the night before that were better than some of the dunks that were done in the dunk contest. He jumped up, grabbed the side of the backboard, went up, and then went around the other side, and I think it wasn't as much of a wow factor. You had to watch the replay to really appreciate it, so the fans weren't really into it immediately. And that got him straight 8s across the board. And then I think Miles Bridges missed a dunk, didn't even make one, took 4 or 5 attempts altogether. I mean, 3 total attempts, and got a 33. And then Dennis Smith, was it Dennis Smith or was it Diallo, that one of them missed the dunk entirely? I think it was Dennis Smith, and got a 35. It's how is he getting only 1 extra point for not making a dunk, and John Collins made a dunk? So I think that the judging needs to be a little stricter. I think that them missing a dunk should have been a 0 or 5s across the board entirely. Another thing is if they miss their first attempt, I think that the max score each judge should be able to give is a 9. Okay. If they miss it again, then the max is an 8. That way it's kind of and then they can be stricter with the judging along the board. So an average dunk could be in the 30s rather than oh wow, that was cool and it's in the last round. Let's just give him a 50 to make it exciting, because that seemed to happen, and it was just kind of like, that dunk was not that good. How did they get a 50? Like Dennis Smith, I think his dunk was it the one over J. Cole was a 50?
I think so.
That he missed like 4 or 5 times before that. It was a great dunk, but I'm not sure that's 50 worthy after missing it as many times in a row as he did. So another thing is, since this is for the fans, really, like, yeah, you want to win, but the dunk contest is to impress the fans. I think everyone should get all 4 dunks. So I think that eliminating John Collins and Miles Bridges just left out 4 extra dunks that could have been the most incredible dunk you've ever seen. We don't know what else they had to show. And I think also the having to make it on to the next round, they're being strategic with their points. Like you were saying, Diallo was like, oh, I only need this many points to make it to the next round. I'll do a basic dunk and save my other dunks. Yeah. Whereas if it's just 4 dunks straight up, see who can get the highest score, you have to go for 50 every single time. Plus, Miles Bridges and John Collins, we don't know what they had in store for us. They could have had something, and they're both extremely athletic. I think they could have had something really cool that we just didn't get to see.
Right. Yeah, and speaking on the John Collins thing, like Noah said, his first dunk, you appreciate it more in like slow-mo and stuff, and it wasn't like that wow factor for the crowd. I thought his dunk score should have been reversed. And mainly because his second dunk, I thought it was just way too much setup for, like, it was just like all this theatrics and the.
If he didn't kick the plane, I think it would have been better.
It would have been better if he didn't kick the plane, but it still wasn't anything special, I don't think. I mean, like the announcer said, we've seen Blake Griffin jump over a car, we've seen stuff, and it was like he brought out this. What were the Tuskegee Airmen? He brought out this plane, and then he just jumps over it and dunks it like that.
Well, if you think about it, like Blake Griffin's dunk, he had how many people come out right before? He had, who did he have sitting in the car?
Right.
And they just tossed the ball up. Like, he jumped up, and he didn't even dunk. He threw the ball in. And now, I'm not saying...
On the car?
Yeah, didn't he just throw that ball?
No, I'm pretty sure he... I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay, but there was one dunk during that contest that he just threw it in. I don't remember if it was that one.
And Dwight Howard threw the Superman in.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's the show beforehand. So I think, had John Collins not kicked the plane, or had he, like, honestly, if he'd lifted his legs... It probably would have been a higher score, but I think it's the theatrics to go along with it that really made Blake Griffin's dunk as memorable as it was, and things like that.
And I think the big thing for me with John Collins' dunk is that it was just a basic dunk. You know what I mean? Like, someone could have put a chair the height of that plane there, and he could have just jumped over the chair and dunked it, and it wouldn't have been as exciting. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
That's my thing with that. I think his dunk score should have been reversed. Yeah. I thought his first dunk was better than his second dunk. And the score didn't reflect that.
And, like, that's kind of, John Collins is, I guess what we could say, an in-game dunker.
Right.
Most of his dunks are on people that would make his super exciting. He's not doing the flashy dunks, which is the same reason that Westbrook and LeBron both said that they haven't ever done a dunk contest. As athletic as they are, they're just saying, oh, I'm an in-game dunker. That's what makes it exciting. So, John Collins, I think that's what he's better at.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it was, I mean, the scores, like Noah said, were... kind of I think the weird thing about it is when these guys miss dunks, I feel like the judges are giving them these scores based on how hard the dunk was they attempted. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like some of them got higher scores for missing than others. But like Noah also said, I feel like there should be a base. Let's say 5 is the lowest, and if a guy misses all of his attempts, all 4 or 5 judges have to give 5s, and then it's just that. So there's no complaints, and there's no like, oh, well, his dunk was harder than this. It should be the participants in the dunk contest should be told, okay, if you miss all your attempts, you're just getting 5s across the board. No exceptions to it. So that way they know, and it's like, okay, I need to do dunks that I can make sure I can make. And, yeah, that would help.
Because, like, this dunk contest, I don't remember if it's money for their charity or if it's money for them specifically, but, like, they're trying to win, and there's, like, thousands of dollars on the line. If the judges are just kind of smiling, like, oh, wow, that was cool. Let's just give this person an 8, this person a 10, just because. Yeah. Like, that's, like, I know it seems like pocket change to them, but it's still thousands of dollars on the line, so it means something.
Yeah, and I like Noah's idea. I think if I could make the dunk contest how I wanted it to be, I'd do what he said, have your 4 contestants, and all 4 of them get 4 dunks. There's no elimination, first round, second round. All 4 guys get 4 dunks, and then you just combine the scores, and whoever's got the highest total scores win. I think that'd be the best way to do it. And that way, if a guy, let's say, were to miss all of his attempts on his first dunk, then he's got to try to get 50s on the rest of his dunks. Because like for Miles Bridges, he missed all of his attempts on his first dunk. He got a 50 on his second dunk, but then he didn't advance because he missed the first dunk. So that way, like a guy like him or a guy like John Collins could get back into it if they got 50s.
Yeah.
So I really do like that, and I think that'd probably be the best way to do the dunk contest. But hopefully next year we will see Zion and Giannis mentioned being in it, but I'm going to be honest, I don't want to see Giannis in it because he's so tall. I mean, yeah, he's freakishly athletic.
Unless he's going to dunk from the three-point line, I don't want to see it.
Y'all look up, if you haven't seen this already, look up Joel Embiid doing a between-the-legs dunk. Because when you think of a between-the-legs dunk, you're like, dang, that's sick. But watch Joel Embiid do it. It looks like it's not even exciting. Like he barely gets off the ground and like so that's why I don't want to see Giannis in it because yeah, he's super athletic, but it's just like we've talked about, the tall guys have a disadvantage and it doesn't look as good. So.
I mean, they just have to be creative because like think about it, a couple of years ago when it was JaVale McGee versus Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
JaVale McGee brought out a second goal, tossed the lob off the glass to himself, and I'm thinking, well, what if he tossed it, switched hands, and I was thinking like that would have been, because I was watching that dunk earlier, they just have to be creative with it. They just can't do the same small guy dunks, which is what I think a lot of them try to do.
That's true. If the guys that are taller need to do like dunks that a small guy probably couldn't do, like JaVale doing the 2 goals,
they can't.
A small guy can't do that. Yeah, Nate Robinson's not doing that. Mm-hmm. So they needed, the big guys should probably, to get an advantage or to try to win a dunk competition, should do the tougher dunks and harder dunks for whatever.
We want to see Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, Zion Williamson, and a fourth. LeBron. You want to see LeBron?
I think everyone wants to see LeBron.
I'd like to see him do it. I'm not
pretty sure he did the McDonald's dunk contest. Didn't he? Out of high school? I think he did.
But I'm sure that would just be fun just because it is LeBron. Like I'm not even saying at 34, 35 years old.
He should do it the year he retires.
Well, we'll have Vince Carter next year.
Yeah.
We'll have him come back.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into the All-Star game. Wasn't really anything that I thought you could fix. The one thing I really like the Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki thing.
Yeah.
If they can find 2 guys that are like almost guaranteed Hall of Famers that have been in the All-Star game a lot to throw in there, like I think like a Vince Carter would be good if he plays another year. But if they can't find that, just like some other sort of special guest to play on the team, I think is really cool. Yeah,
I like the special edition as well, and hopefully next year that'll be Vince Carter and. Who knows? Maybe Tony Parker if he decides to retire after next year or something like that. But I do like that a lot. So
I mean, because it's like seeing a lot of those guys in the All-Star game, it's like they're just you're used to it almost at this point. So throwing in that Dirk and D Wade, you're like really rooting for them.
Yeah,
so.
And when Dirk got in and hit those couple threes, everyone's freaking out.
And then Dwayne Wade got to throw another lob to LeBron. I'm sure Logan's gonna start crying just thinking about it later, just being a last lob between them.
Right. Yeah. So All-Star game, like pretty much same thing with the Rising Stars. Not a lot of stuff to change. Do you like the Team Giannis, Team LeBron stuff better, or do you like East-West better?
I love the new draft format because it throws a new wrinkle into it. It makes it more exciting, and I think it makes it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, it does, definitely, because I think they've kind of gone to that in the last couple of years because Adam Silver has seen how much talent has gone east to west.
That's true.
And with all the guys that moved west, I mean, there's a whole list of them. But the East, I think if they were ever to do it, it could happen in the next couple of years because we're seeing a lot of guys in the East come up. Like, Joel Embiid is getting better. Ben Simmons, the guys who haven't even hit their prime yet. Giannis, Kawhi's in the East now. So
and a lot of rookies, too.
Guys coming up. But I do like the draft thing. It adds a dynamic to it where you have guys like KD and, well, I guess they'd be teammates anyway, but KD and Russ being on the same team.
And then also Clay versus Steph.
Yeah, Clay versus Steph.
Clay versus Steph was fun.
You get to see teammates go against each other.
Because you saw Clay close out and Steph got the 4-point play on him. That was just like...
So, All-Star game, not a whole lot to change. I think pretty much everyone's cool with that, but anything else?
Not All-Star game related.
All right, so that just about does it for our recap of the All-Star weekend. It was, All-Star weekend. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows how it goes. So, hopefully the dunk contest is better next year like we talked about. But I think that just about does it for this episode. We will be back next episode just to talk about... NBA starts back this Thursday. So, next episode we'll be talking about how teams are looking as they're coming back after the All-Star break. Teams, that are still dealing with injuries, stuff like that. And we'll kind of look ahead to the end of the season and the playoff picture. So... That'll do it. Anything else?
Good to
go. All right, so that'll do it for this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Guys.